Hey, I'm Tally Schlaffer, and I help high-achieving individuals become more confident in their everyday relationships. Now, we talk a lot about things that will build your self-esteem and confidence, but what about the things that we might be doing that are actually sabotaging our ability to grow our confidence? On this video, I'm covering 6 bad habits that are destroying your confidence and self-esteem. So let's get into it. There's one habit in particular that really eats away at people's self-esteem that we don't really talk about, and that is judging other people. Now, I'm not saying this from like a morally righteous point of view, what's good and bad, anything like that. This is purely from how it impacts your ability to think well about yourself. When you are constantly judging other people, criticizing other people, blaming other people, finding fault and negative things to focus on, you're training your brain to do the same thing about you. Your brain is something that you program. The thoughts that you entertain are the thoughts that end up becoming habits. So when you're constantly thinking negative about other people, it's that much easier for your brain to turn around and do that against yourself. It's not like it has an on-off switch that anytime you think about yourself, it turns this habit off. If you constantly find yourself thinking judgmental thoughts like, oh, that person's stupid, or he's so incompetent, or she doesn't deserve what she has, or he's a crappy person, or she's so fat, he's so ugly, they're so stupid, then chances are you're probably thinking those thoughts at yourself, but to a higher degree. If you tend to fixate on what's wrong in other people, then your brain will naturally do that about yourself. The second habit that eats away at your confidence is not taking responsibility. Why a lot of people struggle to feel truly confident in themselves is that they don't take responsibility for their emotions or their circumstances. What I mean by not taking responsibility for your emotions is saying things like, oh, that person made me feel angry, or his behavior made me feel jealous, or even things like, you know what, my dad had anger issues, so of course I'm going to have anger issues. There's nothing I can do about it. When it comes to not taking responsibility for circumstances, some examples of that are, my boss totally sucks, my job is awful, or my boyfriend never pays any attention to me, he's always playing video games, or my friends are all shallow and vapid and none of them really care about me. Now, of course, there are a lot of things about our environment and about our upbringing, about our situations that we truly can't control. They're outside of our realm of control. But when you don't take responsibility for your thoughts, your emotions, your behaviors, your actions and reactions to those things, you are relinquishing the control that you do have. What a lot of people get wrong is they think that confidence is just about how you view yourself, how good you can make yourself feel. But it's not just that. It's also your ability to take ownership over things like your happiness and your well-being. It's not just how you think about yourself, it's also how you think about your own capability to exert control over the things that you have control over. If you find that you have anger issues and you blame it on one of your parents, yeah, of course, you couldn't control how they were when you were growing up or the lessons that you learned from them. You can't control the past and you can't control other people. But what you can control is your ability to identify, okay, there's an issue, an ongoing behavior that causes me distress, and I can control what I do about it. Maybe I'm gonna go take some anger management classes, or maybe I'm gonna meditate more, or maybe I'm gonna just try to be a little bit more mindful of any time I get really triggered or bothered about something and kind of try to take some deep breaths. There are some things that are within your realm of control, and it's really important if you want to be confident to be able to identify the things that are within your realm of control and actually start owning those things. The third habit that is destroying your confidence is wallowing in shame and guilt. Now, we all know that not taking responsibility for your emotions and your thoughts leads to bad self-esteem, but so does the exact opposite, which is taking too much responsibility. A lot of us are really familiar with feelings of shame and guilt. I can personally speak to this. And the funny thing about guilt and shame is they make us feel like we're doing something about our problem, right? If I am berating myself, if I'm chastising myself, if I'm punishing myself mentally, I feel like I'm doing something about it, right? In my brain, I'm going, if I punish myself enough for this behavior, if I think bad thoughts about myself, I'm never gonna do it again. I'm not gonna repeat that mistake. But the sneaky thing about feelings like shame and guilt is that they're actually sabotaging our ability to work on the very issues that are causing those feelings of shame and guilt. That's because when you're busy dealing with those feelings of shame and guilt, you're not actually working on the problem. And listen, don't take what I'm saying against yourself and like guilt yourself for feeling guilty. That's not what this is about. This is just about realizing that When you are entertaining feelings and thoughts that make you feel ashamed, make you feel guilty, make you feel really bad and crappy about yourself, you're not actually giving yourself an opportunity to move forward and address the issue itself. This is where it's really important to start distinguishing between fault and responsibility. Fault is looking at the past and making judgments, assigning blame, pointing fingers about whose fault is it, and what does it mean about me as a person. Responsibility is looking at the present and going, okay, here's the situation that we're in. What can we actually control? And what can we go do in the future going forward to prevent this or to resolve this problem or to make it better? Having a sense of responsibility sounds in your brain like, I made a mistake. It was pretty ugly. It wasn't pretty. I'm not proud of how I behaved. There's nothing I can do about the past. It sucks. But here's where I am now. Here's the things that I can control. Here are the options that I might be able to take. I'm not going to sit around and ruminate about why I did what I did and what it means about me as a person and what it means about my own worth. I am going to focus on what I can control moving forward. The next habit that is damaging your self-esteem and your confidence is looking to other people for validation. It is a big red flag if the only time you ever feel good about yourself is when you're doing something for someone else or when you're getting praised by someone else. Doing things for other people and getting praised, yeah, they're gonna feel good, but they can't be your only source of validation and source of good, positive feelings about yourself. I talk a lot about people pleasing when it comes to confidence, and that's because people pleasing gives you a false sense of confidence. It makes you feel good about yourself, but those good feelings aren't really true inner confidence because you can't have your confidence rely on external forces. It has to be something that you can generate within. It has to be independent of other people existing and your interactions with those other people. Of course, your interactions with other people might give you a boost in confidence, but in order to develop true, lasting self-esteem and really feel at peace with yourself, you have to be able to first generate those feelings in yourself and not rely on other people in order to get that validation. And by the way, if you struggle with people pleasing, be sure to check out my free guide on how to stop people pleasing. It contains 10 strategies to start speaking up for yourself and improve your relationships while you're at it. I'll be sure to link that in the description. Another sneaky habit that is eating away at your confidence is comparing yourself with other people in order to feel good about yourself. A lot of people make the mistake of looking at other people who have it worse off in order to feel better about themselves. So if they are feeling low and they want a little boost in self-esteem, they look around and they find people who are worse off than them, either financially or when it comes to career success or in romantic relationships or physically. This is called downward comparison in psychology, and it means looking at people who are below you in some way in order to bolster yourself up. I know I used to do this a lot when I was in college because I was super insecure in college. I would go to the gym, I would look around, and I would find people who are lifting lower weights than me, or maybe they're not as in shape as me, or maybe they're doing something that I was judging. And I would think negative things about those people, and it would make me feel temporarily better about myself. I wasn't generating good feelings about myself on my own, so I had to go find people who were worse off than me in order to feel better about myself. But the problem is, this isn't actual confidence because, again, you're relying on other people being worse off than you in order to feel good about yourself. The other sticky situation that this results in is if your ability to feel good about yourself relies on other people being worse off, what's going to happen when you're surrounded by more successful people, by people who are better off than you in some way? You're going to feel shitty about yourself. Your confidence is basically a house of cards. It's super volatile. It comes and goes based on who's around you. And this is actually going to keep you from growing and succeeding as a person because you're never going to seek out or let in people who are more successful than you, people that you can look up to as role models, or people that have something better than you, because those people make you feel crappy. You're going to distance yourself from people who are better off than you because they make you feel bad about yourself, rather than being attracted to them because, oh my gosh, they have something that I could aspire to. Another thing that really eats away at your self-esteem is not speaking up for yourself. So this is if you find yourself sweeping things under the rug or bottling up your emotions or walking on eggshells, peacekeeping, avoiding conflict. This really damages your self-esteem in the long run because it feels inauthentic. It feels like you're not truly being yourself. And the reason for that is because how you show up externally is not in alignment with what you're experiencing on the inside. That discrepancy makes us feel really bad about ourselves. Now, I'll be the first to admit it's not always appropriate to fully express all of your emotions. There's kind of a spectrum of things, of responses that are appropriate based on the situation that you're in, who's around, how close you are, how trusting you are to the people that you're with, and also how effective you think you're going to be at resolving the issue right away. But the problem is, if you always default to not saying anything, if you don't even acknowledge that there's a spectrum of potential ways to express yourself, you're basically telling yourself that you're not worthy, you're not important enough to prioritize. And hey, if you like this video, I want you to check out my video called 10 Signs That You're People Pleasing. It covers 10 everyday habits that you might be making and why they're damaging to your self-esteem. And I want to know, which of these habits do you want to overcome the most? I hope this video was helpful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.